Hello lovely people, welcome to my channel. It's Hila here, Saturday Night Session. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. Today's video we're going to be doing a browse through of the November 2023 issue. Currently in the north of England, the garden is going to sleep now, so most of the flowers are gone. Here are a few of the flowers that I still have. Hydrangeas with their beautiful fading colors, so they go from sort of like a pinkish, so they were quite pink during high summer, and they've gone sort of a nice cool blue and green over here, and then they sort of become russet as the time goes. So I think that they are quite pretty, very lovely autumnal colors. And the other thing that I have rampaging around my garden at the moment is the nasturtium. They've just gone crazy. They are everywhere, providing these winking orange, bright orange flowers with the black. Sometimes some of them have got a black center, and the pollinators are loving them. So I've got loads of these everywhere, really. And the nasturtiums tend to hang about until the first frosts, of which I think the frosts are going to be late this year because we're already in November and we haven't had any frosts yet. These lovely little architectural bits are what you have after the rudbeckia has finished flowering. So during summer it had these beautiful yellow petals all around it, and now it has these wonderful architectural looking stalks with a black sphere at the top. So I leave these standing so that at least in winter there's just something interesting to look at in the garden. So wherever you are in the world, I'm sending you this bouquet of autumnal flowers from a garden in the north of England. So we're just going to pop those flowers over there. Right, so here we are with November. I have the line drawings here, and yeah, I quite liked the cover issue of this English issue. And again, we do this 168 patterns. It's not actually 168 different patterns, it's different sizes. So for instance, this trench coat here comes in 5 different sizes, and those are being counted as patterns. So if you are new to Burda, just be aware of that. Okay, so we have quite an interesting selection. However, there was only one thing that really absolutely caught my eye. I thought overall the styling, the magazine styling, they did a great job with it. I mean, just look at this center spread over here, all to showcase this dress, which I do think, as lovely as the photo spread is though, my only one tiny little improvement would have been to remove the shouldered overcoat so that we could actually see the dress in its full glory. However, we do have the line drawing here, and this is a very raglan sleeve-like top. So I have made a similar style sleeve from a 2013 issue of Burda style, and I think it was a November 2013 issue, whereby the sleeve, the arm size, sort of doesn't actually create that traditional curved one that we would expect, but it sort of goes all the way in. And it can be quite flattering, particularly if you've got broad shoulders like I do. So I did find this to be quite interesting. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the tie detail at the side. I honestly think that if you want to add a belt to a dress or to a garment, then just make a rectangular piece of fabric, sew it up so that you've got the option of being able to use the tie belt that matches, or you could use a leather belt. So if we look at this outfit that they have here, on the model, she's wearing this lovely burgundy deep brown boots. Can you imagine how much nicer this outfit would have looked if she'd had a burgundy leather belt over here as well? And that would just provide some segmentation and just really pick it up. So I do think that these belts here, they do reduce the options on an otherwise really lovely silhouette. So that was it, but quite a good strong start, I thought. And here we can see a little bit more detail of how that belt would work. So even though on here we're shown the belt being belted at the front, it's been tied at the back over here. And then we have a trench coat, which I must say, this definitely did catch my eye. I liked the joyfulness, the lightweightness of it and how versatile it looked. I love the belt. Obviously, when it's cinched in with the belt, it's quite lovely over there. It's been made in a denim as well, so you do have the option of making it in a darker indigo denim. But what I then realized when I was looking at the instructions, because I was considering it as a possibility for a project to make, it's not actually lined, and I'm not too keen on the idea of having a winter or autumn coat that isn't lined. And that's because I tend to wear a lot of knit jumpers underneath. And if you try and put on anything that's long sleeved and the coat doesn't have any lining, it's so much more problematic. It's not quite as easy. So I wasn't too happy about the fact that it didn't have any lining, and for me it's sort of it slipped from the could potentially make list for me personally. But that's not an issue because Burda does have a lot of other trench coat patterns that are fully lined, so I'll just have to try and find something from those other issues. And then we've got the Eternal biker jacket over here, asymmetrical detail, neat little stand collar, shaping at the shoulders here, and you've got all of these shaping that's provided by the darts over there. Fabulous. So this one, I definitely would like to make this because I've been needing to make a biker style jacket for the longest time now. And so this is one of the ones that I'm absolutely interested in. However, I do have a short list of at least 3 other biker style jackets from Burda that I have to pick from. One of them is from a 2008 issue, a November 2008 issue, which I am going to show at some point when I do a wear in Burda because it's quite cute. This is why I'm saying that this is quite a classic, because even as I look through my old Burdas, you always come across this biker style silhouette. And I think it's worth making the time and the investment that it will take to make it, because it's clearly something that keeps coming back in fashion. And then we've got a pencil skirt, simple, with some cargo style pockets, which seem to be very popular at the moment. Personally, not a particularly huge fan of doing the cargo style pockets here on this sort of fabric, like a wool fabric. I know that on there they say that it's a wool blend fabric, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. Is it a wool poly, wool cotton, wool jersey? What is it? It to me, it just doesn't feel right to have these sorts, particularly on a skirt. I think they work on a coat, particularly say a pea coat or something. However, on a skirt, particularly where they're located, I think if you're trying to minimize your hips, as sometimes I try and dress in a way that does minimize my hips because I've got one side that's chunkier, fleshier than the other, the last thing I want is something that's just going to add to that. Never mind the fact that it's not going to be a very practical pocket. Can you imagine the outline of your phone on there? So I just take off those pockets and it's a banging skirt pattern. And again, some lovely, interesting styling, just in the middle of a field somewhere. And it's a simple top with some drop shoulders. This is the Burda top, basically. This is the iconic Burda top, drop shoulders, no button closure. So it's supposed to be something that's a pullover top. And then we've got a curved hem over here. Always have to have something like that. And then we've got the wide leg pants, which seem to be another popular recurring theme. And if you look at any of the older Burda issues, you will constantly see the autumn winter issues. They tend to always feature this wide leg pant, which was popularized obviously by Marlene Dietrich. And it's just a wonderful one. And this time the little difference that they've made is it's in an elasticated waist, made in a wool blend fabric. Now, I don't know whether it's my traditional sensibilities. I do love the vintage sewing patterns. I love the vintage styling. I love old movies. I love reading about, haute couture and atelier workshops, how they do that sort of thing. I feel as though wool and an elasticated waist do not necessarily go hand in hand. Let me know in the comments box down below, what's your hot take on this? Am I being unreasonable to think that wool ought not to have an elasticated waist, particularly on something that ought to be like a wardrobe workhorse, like these trousers are supposed to be? Let me know in the comments down below. But that's my only issue with it. I do love a wide leg pant, even though I can't quite carry it off myself, but I intellectually love it when I see it worn and it looks really fabulous on somebody that it looks good on. Beautiful. And then keeping in turn with this whole oversized look, we've got this drop shoulder top made in a pleather and imitation leather, and it's like I want to call it a shacket, you know, because I don't think you'd be able to wear this directly on its own. It's something that you would always be layering over a base, similar to what they have done in here, and they've used some snappers, poppers over there. Not a big fan of pleather personally, but you know, to each their own. Okay, this was another one that I thought was quite a cute jacket. It's a blouse-on jacket, and I'm sure we've seen this before in Burda, but we've got the raglan sleeve, we've got the collar, we have a placket, and then we've got those patch pockets, and we are getting shaping at the waist because it's elasticated over here. I would have loved to see some design congruency by also adding in some cuffs over here as well, so that it's also tapered in at the wrists and tapered in at the waist. I think that would have made it perfect soft gamine style, but I do have a bias towards the soft gamine. Yeah, and then we've got this whole English heritage, English cottage thing going, which I absolutely love and am here for, with the thatch roof and the rose garden, etc. Really, really lovely. Although I can certainly tell you this, having grown up around chickens and feeding chickens and all that you do not do this with a cockerel. That is just a big pecking accident waiting to happen. But it was a great picture. Oops. So we have a simple sheath style dress, which has got a waist piece here that is a personal pet peeve of mine. It's like you're sewing in a belt, and that just adds a lot of intricacy unnecessarily. By the way, it looks like I've swapped over the line drawings because this one's got the top stitching in it, but actually this particular dress doesn't have, but it's the same design lines anyway. But as you can see, this is supposed to be almost like it's a belt, but for me, I just think, why waste all that time trying to sew this up when you could just have a simple waist seam and you can wear a belt, or you make a fabric covered belt to match if you want to, but you have the option then of wearing different color belts. So it's, you know, it's just a minor thing. So and I say this because I have sewn a dress before that had this waistband sewn in, and honestly it was a nightmare trying to make sure that it stayed nice and parallel. And granted, that was my fault because the fabric that I chose was quite thin, so it was very hard to keep it on the grain. The faced pattern piece was the interfaced pattern piece was on the inside, and I hadn't interfaced the outer pattern piece that would have been visible because I didn't want it to change its structure because it would have become too stiff. And so it just kept, it was a challenge that I personally don't think is necessary. And considering that when I then did wear the dress, it seemed pointless to me because I would always end up putting a belt over it anyway, like a brown belt over it. So little mini rant over. The tutorial is for the wide leg trousers with the elasticated band. And then over here, we've got the blue section, which I must say I found very strange in a November issue, simply because blue isn't necessarily a color that I associate with autumn and with winter, and particularly the very cool tone blues that they have used here. But kicking off, we've got like this really lovely blazer, which fits in a lot with what I've seen in terms of the high street. I've had to go to the shops recently to buy some chinos for my 14-year-old son, who's at this weird age where he's no longer in the kids age group for clothes, and he isn't quite there yet with the adult age group. So it's been quite challenging to try and find chinos for him. And so as I was walking around, I actually noticed that there was a lot of this in the high street, the shops here in England. So I thought, oh, that's a little nice touch, but very simple lines, and they've gone with the single button. Of course, if you're not a fan of the single button, you can easily add extra buttonholes. interesting stuff. And then we've got the wide leg trousers again, but this time the elasticated casing is made in a contrasting fabric with a little bit of shine, because we are going into the season of the sparkle. We must have the sparkles, obviously, you know, it's really lovely. And then we've got that dress from the beginning, except for this time that tie has been removed. The absolutely unnecessary integrated belt has been removed. And I think that this is much more appropriate. And I think that it's much nicer, much cleaner. And even though there are instructions to make this belt, this elasticated belt with some clip-on hardware, you don't need to make that. You just use your own sets of belts, and that gives you the opportunity, if you want to go brown belt, brown shoes, you know, black and black, you know, it would work really well. So I do quite like this dress here. And the other thing that I noted about the dress when I was looking at the instructions, because again, as I said, I love the shoulder here, this type of sleeve. When I've worn this, it is so flattering on a broad shoulder person like myself. And so I was definitely considering this, because I did make a top that's got a similar type of sleeve. And so I was considering this. And another factor that I really liked about it is that the skirt is actually cut on the bias grain. And a bias grain skirt is so flattering in how it drops and how it drapes. It's just really lovely. All of the dresses that I've made, or skirts that I've made with a bias cut skirt, are just always really lovely. So that added, so that was a plus for me. And yeah, so this is a good one. I don't like how they've styled it in here though with these black boots, because black boots, they just add so much contrast immediately. And they shorten legs in this, and it doesn't work quite well. And yeah, like honestly, if these boots had just been knee length boots and it was just black, it would have been so much better than to do this. It sort of skews the proportions, but really lovely dress otherwise. Okay, and then we can see the dress in more detail here, worn tonally and styled with a similar color bag. I don't know, I think another color that would have been a metallic. Like if they'd gone with a silver boot, that would have worked even better. But you know, anyway, we've got the top again, the Burda top, but this time we've got elasticated casings. Now at first when I saw this line drawing, I thought that they've used shirring, and I thought, okay, well that's a nice use of shirring. That will make it easy. But actually, no, when I was looking at the instructions, this is not shirring. You actually are making casings for the elastic, and then you're threading the elastic through, which is great, because then you can do this thing where you roll up your sleeves, you know, very easily. Fantastic. Shiny fabric, because again, we're going into the season of the shiny, of the sparkle, which is lovely, which we need during rainy days, particularly here in England. Utility wise, we've got this really useful sporting jacket, long, warm, made in technical fabrics. Haven't yet dipped my toes into making something like this, but I can see how useful that would be. And then we've got the shacket, which is not going anywhere. When this first showed up, you know, a few years ago, I just thought it was gonna, you know, go the way of the you know, the fanny packs or the leg warmers, but nope, it's still around. This time it's in blue, and it's got these gigantic pockets over here. So yeah, and then we've got a jumper with the teddy fleece. So this is another thing that I noticed in the shops. There is so much of this fleecy, relaxed look sweater. So here we've got the texture blocking, which just adds to the cozy feel of the jacket. Then we've got sequins. So these are those wide leg trousers, but this time they've been made in sequins. And I feel as though my sewing with sequins threshold has been hit, and I have no plans to ever sew with sequins again, because those things get everywhere, including the machines, etc. So yeah, not a big fan of sequins anymore. And then we've got a very simple top made with jersey, and I do not understand this obsession with inserting intricate zippers by the neck. you know, it's just it gets me. Now then, the line drawing, when you look at it, you think that this ruching is very serious, it's quite significant, and it's on the back, but clearly not on the front. But you can't really see any signs of the ruching when you actually look at it being worn. So I'll be curious to see if anybody's going to make this within the Burda sewing community. And then we've got the batwing top. Now the batwing top, it looks very nice in principle. It's very easy to sew up because the sleeves are gigantic and they just go straight onto the bodice here. So rectangular bodice, and then you've got this sleeve. But the problem with dolman or batwing sleeves, in my experience, when I've made stuff that's similar, particularly in autumn and winter, where you probably need to put on a jacket over the top, or a cardigan or a jumper or a hoodie, is that there's a weird thing that happens around here, because there's all this excess fabric which impacts on where your top ends and drapes. When you put a jacket on, unless if your jacket also has batman or dolman sleeves, right, it sort of eats into this section here, which then pulls this hem up. And it's really unpleasant and very annoying and very, very unfortunate, I think, because they're so easy. So I think that these sorts of tops, they tend to be more suitable for spring or summer, where you're not necessarily thinking that you might need to put a layer on. Okay, and then we've got that pencil skirt, but it's been given a sports utility vibe by having a casing, some grommets, and a drawstring, similar to what you would find in a sportswear. So keeping up with this athleisure sort of trend that seems to have really stayed on after lockdowns, which is when it really kind of kicked off the more casual look and vibe. And then we've got a lovely simple top here with a very neat little mandarin collar and a very neat placket. So it's really very simple lines, drop shoulder, some puffiness over here, and then it's tapered at the wrist. Quite a lovely top, and I think that this would suit people that if you're into the Kibi image ID, I think that this goes quite well in the classic range. For me, it doesn't quite work as a soft gamine because of the drop shoulder. As a soft gamine, I need to have shoulder shaping. I can't really pull off the drop shoulder look, particularly for me as well with my broader shoulders. It just doesn't quite work out as well, but lovely. Okay, and then we've got that dress again with the waistband, but this time it's just been made in a lovely denim, so it's so much thicker, so much more structure to it, and it works really well with the model that they have used here. So it's a very statuesque, very column-esque sort of dress, and I think that this would very much suit, again, the classics. So I thought that this issue in terms of the classics, your soft classics, dramatic classics, they were very well catered for in this particular issue, and I think that this would work really well, particularly with the added drama of those design lines going across, and then with the top stitching just adding that next level finesse to it. I expect that this one is going to be made a lot of, as in I think that there'll be a lot of people that are interested in making that. And then we've got that dolman batwing top again, but this time it is a dress, and we've got an elasticated dress, elasticated waist over here. Now this is similar to the what's it called? The Avid seamstress, the sheath dress, which I did make before, but I never made more than one of it because of that problem of layering, basically. I cannot put a jacket or cardigan or anything over it, and it just doesn't work for me because I've got poor circulation and I constantly need to have layers on, so that's why it didn't work. But lovely. I quite like how they've used this particular fabric. It looks lovely and cozy. However, one thing that I do notice on the particular model is that this neckline seems to be really wider than what I would expect based on the line drawing, so that's something that I would be watching out for. And then we've got that top again with the weird little zipper. Please, can we not do zippers in jersey fabric by the neck? That would be so uncomfortable. Okay, more pleather, more structured clothing here. Or this is a mock croc leather. Mock croc, is that what it's called? And it's a pencil skirt with hip yoke pockets. And you've got that center seam over there. What have we got here? Okay, so we've got a clean looking blouse here with a covered placket and a nice and tidy neat little collar, drop shoulder, so loads of volume, so still keeping that volume, and it's almost a way of trying to smarten up that whole oversized look. So we have the collar and the cuffs over here. Yeah, interesting styling actually. I think that this styling is relatively decent. Okay, and then we have a blouse here that we did see in January 2016. And I know because I actually traced out this pattern in the hope that I would make it in a pink satin fabric. And it's still a to make project at some point. I like that they simplified the pattern by using elasticated cuffs here. And so, yeah, so I'm still hoping to make this, but it is a repeat from January 2016. And then we've just got an overlong tunic style dress with a notched collar along the V neckline there. You can't really see it because the fabric that they have used doesn't really, it misses out the detail of the neck collar. Would have loved to see this in a black. That would have worked really well. See what I mean about black boots? When they're long and they're going up to the knee, it's quite nice because it just creates a continual line versus if it goes here, and then it sort of creates more segmentation, which might not necessarily work for the outfit. And we have a long waistcoat. This is another thing that I saw a lot of in the shops. Tons, almost every shop that I passed by, they had something of this long waistcoat thing going. And here it's been made in a fluffy, fleecy type wool blend fabric. So interesting. And then the pièce de résistance of the issue was the corset dress here, which initially I saw because it was, it's a dress. I was very much attracted to it. But the one thing that I don't quite like about it is the space between the bustier portion. So as you can see on here, you've got the cups over there, and then you've got so much extra space over there, which I just, yeah, it didn't work for me. But I do think that Burda has got loads of other similar styles that to my eye probably would suit me a lot better. I do love the pleated skirt. I think that this would be quite nice on its own. It adds some lovely volume and drama, make it in something a little bit shiny, and it would be a nice complement to a sparkly Christmas sweater with some boots, and it could work. Plus, the other thing is I don't like the curtain-like fabric. This just reminds me of the curtains from when I was younger. And there's a little section here on this jacket. I really do like the biker jacket, and I must make myself one. So this is what we have, lovelies. This is Burda 11 2023, and I did manage to keep this to under 30 minutes, which is fantastic. So do let me know in the comments box down below. Are you going to be making anything from this? Have you already made something from this issue? So for me, it's that biker jacket, which I think is definitely in the top 5, top 3 of the biker jackets that I am interested in making. I'm really excited about the December issue. I did not expect, the line drawings were released a couple of days ago, and you can check out the video, it's on my playlist. And I'm so excited about that issue because there's definitely a handful of things that I can see would fit into the gaps that I've identified into my wardrobe, and I cannot wait to share that with you. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe so that you won't miss when that video comes out for the December issue. And until I see you next time, lovelies, happy sewing. Bye.